According to Georges Bataille, there is more flesh and blood present in the Eucharist than the Church chooses to acknowledge. The intermingling of the sacred and the profane, of sensual presence and sacrament, the coincidence of life and death. I think Bataille is right, and I agree with those parts of the environmental and civil rights movements that claim that love for the abstract and the ideal has been part in legitimizing an ongoing abuse of the world. I think we need a material theological thinking. We need it to inspire theopolitical activism, everyday climate action and resistance, but to do so, I also think it should inspire church life and liturgical expressions. Stretching the field of liturgical theology a bit, we could extract or extend the Bataillean and material dimensions of that thought tradition. The concept of primary liturgical theology, as introduced by Aidan Kavanagh, captures a level of liturgical experience that precedes theorization and explanation. Simon Sean describes it as a tacit form of knowledge, a concrete and wordless experience that makes out the basis for liturgical theology. We know more than we can tell, he writes, and in trying to tell it, we often tell it badly. Or as simply stated by David Fagerberg, before there were universities with theology faculty, there were theologians. Naturally, the thinkers mentioned don't really take the step from heaven down to earth, from the ideal transcendence to immanent transcendence, but a radical liturgical theology could. What if we were to follow Bataille theologically, liturgically, towards the flesh and blood, the actual bread and wine, sweat and coughs of the church room? Let us imagine a radical liturgical theology that is not focused on symbolic content, on what the liturgical act or holy things mean, but in their performance, the material behavior, their effects, what they evoke, what they create. In such an account, the Eucharist would, in a radical sense, have no meaning. The Eucharist would not mean anything, but would do something slightly different every time, way out of control. The meeting of hands slips, our bodies gathered, our hopes, dreams, despairs, doubts. A radical liturgical theology would not guide us toward an absolute knowledge, but toward a humbling presence, a humbling appreciation of the richness of expressions in this world. In Kameron J Carter's call for a black malpractice, his Poetics of the Sacred, Bataille is used in a similar manner to what I'm suggesting here. Carter writes, "The unholdable, the unhavable, notwithstanding that juridical economic order seeks to seize and thus reduce the unhavable to ownership or property, is in fact uncapturable. It will not fully get information. The material presence of organic processes, of just being there, cannot be made into a narrative. It cannot be sold in a package. It must be experienced in relation to other bodies, other organic processes, things. It marks the limits of our power, hence opens toward a presence on earth beneath our habitual kind of almighty presence as humans. A radical liturgical theology can help us practice such a presence in our church services."